Welcome to Rates and Barrels. Happy opening day. It is Thursday, March 27th. Derek VanRiper, Sarris, Trevor May, all here with you. Thank you to all of you for being here live with us today.
How are our levels? Can you hear us? Do we turn it up?
Go louder?
Louder.
Unanimous louder.
All right.
Yeah.
Still louder or good now? That good? Comfortable? All right.
That's good. More loud?
That's probably about right.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt anybody down here, but yeah.
I will get excited at some point.
Will get louder. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. Thanks to the good folks here at Barebottle. This has been a fantastic day so far. Great opening day for Giants fans. I want to talk about opening day highlights. Holy cow. Wilmer Flores, go-ahead home run off of probably one-day closer, Ian Gibaut for the Reds. I love that we talked about the Reds bullpen and named 4 different guys that could get saves. Ian Gibaut wasn't one of them. Gets the opportunity. Rushing in a first-come, first-served league, tries to pick him up, actually gets beat on the waiver wire, but it all worked out for the best, and Giants fans go home happy.
I definitely pulled out my phone and was like, Ian Gibaut, gotta get him, 20-team league. And it's the league that I'm in with Derek. And he was like, my hands are in my pockets. I don't care.
No, thank you.
I'm like, I gotta get him. And then somebody beat me to him, and then he grew up safe. So I was like, okay, good. Then you can have him.
Just before we started recording, I saw that the Pirates bullpen blew a win for Paul Skeens. It was Colin Holderman and David Bednar combining to give up 3 runs to the Marlins in 2 innings somehow. Trevor, if that happens, and you get to the same situation next time out in Pittsburgh, does Holderman get the 8th and Bednar get the 9th again? Do you just run it back?
Yep, you do. I mean, you can't panic after one game. Yeah. So, but
do you roll Gibaut back out there?
Probably not. The other 2 guys have been in those roles for a while, even though Bednar's trying to figure some stuff out. So I'm sure that's not how he wanted to start. But, yeah, you run him back out. I know Shelty pretty well, too. He's going to run him back out.
Yeah. Also, if your name is Colin Holderman, you get the holds.
Yeah.
That should be your role, very clearly. So some other opening day highlights so far. Austin Wells hit a leadoff homer for the Yankees off of Freddie Peralta. And Austin Wells is not your prototypical leadoff hitter, but how do you feel about that? Seeing him atop that order in that ballpark as a lefty with some power, what are we thinking with Austin Wells? Is he a late riser? If you have not drafted as of opening day, are you moving him up your board?
Yeah. I mean, we know, like, there'll be other things. We're going to come up with this. And you were saying this earlier, but, like, the managers lie. And so they could have said, yeah, we're looking at him at leadoff, and then he batted, anywhere from 5th to 9th on opening day. But the proof of the pudding is they actually batted him leadoff. That's going to get him more plate appearances. I mean, I watch a lot of Little League games. You put your best player first. So Austin Wells, they think, is their best batter. Better than Aaron Judge. Better go get him.
That is Aaron Boone's philosophy. It's managing like the Little League team. How about this one, Trevor? Nicky Lopez pitched for the Angels on opening day. What an opening day to be. Are there any Angels fans here? It's okay. We have a prize for you. If you're an Angels fan, you can debate it.
They don't exist.
There are none. Okay, what are you doing? That's the most Angels thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Getting blown out by the White Sox on opening day has to be the most deflating possible way to begin the 2025 season.
It should be virtually impossible to have to throw a position player on opening day because no one has pitched.
Yeah.
You're right.
No, you should throw your whole bullpen before that happens to avoid this embarrassment. But,
Well, they're kind of interesting because they did throw Ryan Johnson, who skipped the minor leagues completely. And I would assume that if you do something like that, it's to give him a major league opportunity and soak up innings. And he was apparently one of the most prolific college pitchers of the last 2 years before he got drafted. And he went 5 outs. So I guess that's what you do. You don't really want a kid like that who never pitched in the minor leagues to wear it worse than 5 runs and 5 outs, right? Like, you don't want him to go put up a 10 spot, right?
Yeah,
you might never
definitely
recover.
Don't. It's already hard enough to be in your first opening day to make your debut in a game where you're getting blown out, and you're part of the reason that that's happening. It can be bad, and there's not high expectations for the team already, so. You want these guys to have confidence because you want the young guys to be your core moving forward. I don't know. It feels a little bit like a Ron Washington be mentally tough move. a little bit. You got to learn. Throw them in the deep end type of situation.
Take your lumps, kid.
We've already taken cell phones away in the clubhouse for the Angels. What's next? What's Wash's next card?
Well, funny fact about that. I had a comment on that recently too, and I was corrected that Logan O'Hoppe recently said that it was the players that came up with the rule.
No. Wow.
But it sounds like Wash does because he's very into it. He's like, yeah, they shouldn't be doing that. Like he made it up. But no, they approached him and said, hey, we want to do this, and he was on board. So
no way.
Yeah, it was like O'Hoppe and Neto and Trout.
No
way. We're like, we're good. Let's do it.
The positive of it is the thing that cell phones has done to us, the rot it has introduced into our brains.
Oh my goodness.
Is that we can barely be present sometimes,
Yeah.
and even while I'm hanging out with people, thank you all for coming out. It's been so great meeting so many of you. I'm hanging out with people, and I want to be present with them.
Yeah.
And Ian Dubois is closing, and I run to my cell phone and sorry, I know, really nice to meet you, but I got to pick up Ian Dubois right now. And
it's for work.
It's for work. And yeah, exactly. With the wife and the kids, you're like, I'm sorry, it's a work thing, And so I wonder, to some extent, they're just like, let's try to be present. I had a slightly different viewpoint on it, where it was Kurt Gibson, was the manager for the Diamondbacks, and he implemented it. And he was a very old school manager. And he implemented it, and I thought that I could see the eye rolls from a mile away.
Yeah.
Just, just players being like, I got to call my wife, and now I have to walk outside into the concourse or, walk, find some place and, I'm surreptitiously calling my wife from, the bowels of some stadium.
Yeah.
And there's people who can see me, fans who can see me being like, oh, look, there's.
Yeah. I think it's just, there might have been getting out of hand where everyone was on their phones at the same time sometimes, and there's no music playing or stuff, where it was very obvious. That's usually when that stuff comes up. I used to be like, oh, it's so weird you FaceTime in the clubhouse, but now I have children and I know what that's.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do it right now. Yeah. Hey, I know it's the middle of the pod, but what's up? So I get it, and I just think it's just a vibe. They were just probably looked around like, what are we doing, guys? Go to the weight room or something, right? And I like it then. But I like the players. Send a message, if anything. They send it to the other guys. Like, we're just going to focus up. Probably won't be an issue. And we'll go from there.
It's only one day. But on the other side of that, Sean Burke pitched really well. One of your sleepers for this season. He goes 6 scoreless, 3 Ks, just 3 hits allowed. I know Tim Anderson was hitting 5th. He struck out 3 times for the Angels today. Probably won't be in that 5 spot very long. But I think you got to be pretty happy. Sean Burke getting an opening day win.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that. And the one thing that was funny was that somebody was like, aren't you worried about his velo being down? And I did. I had that little oh, God. Because he's such a fastball-centric guy. He doesn't really have great secondaries. He's a pronator. It reminds me a little bit of Tobias Myers, where he's got a good fastball with good ride, and he's got a good changeup, but he struggles to put together good breaking balls. And so, I think a loss of a tick or two, I'd be like, next him a little bit, and he's not going to get you wins in Chicago anyway. I checked. He was down a half tick in spring. I don't know what to do with that.
That's nothing.
It's not too much to be worried about. And then, the nice thing is he didn't cost you, anybody who did pick him up, he didn't cost you anything. And he started out with a nice, having the Angels on the roster there for him for a start was good. And today, 94.5, pretty much identical to last year. So I still like him. The whiffs came mostly off of the four seam, but he managed to get 29% whiffs on the slider. So I think it's a kind of a sweepy slider at 81. I think he's going to put it together, get you 6 to 7 wins, and be a decent pitcher this year.
The other really big pitching performance we saw, Mackenzie Gore, 13 Ks, 6 scoreless, 1 hit. Wasn't good enough to get a win, unfortunately, but that's dominance against a really good Philly lineup. And what do you think the key is going to be for Gore to put all the pieces together this year, Trevor?
It's just been command with him and health. Mm-hmm. When I played against him when he was in San Diego and he's a rookie, I was like, this guy's got electric stuff. And I think they saw that, and that's why he was in the big package for Soto. I think he's there. I know Josiah Gray was kind of the the front of the line guy last year until he got hurt. Mackenzie Gore's got the highest ceiling, so he could be a bona fide ace. If you strike out 13 in 6 scoreless in a Major League Baseball game, you have the potential to be a number one.
We have a lot of opening day memories we've gathered over the years. I was just thinking about that Giants home run that Wilmer Flores hit today. That might be pretty high on the list for a lot of the Giants fans that are here. My favorite opening day memory, for at least the game that I was at, Lorenzo Cain pulled back a game-tying home run in Milwaukee against the Cardinals in 2019, began the not today era of that entire season. He pulled a lot of home runs back in 2019. If anybody here remembers who hit that ball for the Cardinals, you get the correct answer. We have a free 1-year subscription to the Athletics. Just shout
That's
out
for
if we
new
hear
subscribers. If you already are a subscriber, we have a Barebottle pint glass if you'd like. So.
No. We'll see if anyone comes up with it. You can come up with it any time during the show.
But don't look it up. Like,
Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
Got any more guesses? Cardinals, random Cardinals?
Name
Lorenzo
Matt Carpenter.
Cain
Matt Carpenter.
It's not Matt Carpenter.
I really want that pint glass.
Yeah.
It's a guy we all thought was going to be good from a fantasy perspective.
lefty first baseman.
Yes.
Closer.
That's
Closer.
good.
You're getting closer.
He was once acquired to possibly stave off the Eric Hosmer deal, but instead they signed Eric Hosmer anyway and just released this guy. He was a
Big guy. I can't remember.
he was a big guy.
This is close.
He was a Ray. No,
No.
it's good, but
But a
No.
low K rate guy, big power. Everyone thought, hey, if he just gets 500 plate appearances, he's going to be on all of our fantasy teams, going to win you a title. It's not going to cost you anything. It never quite worked out. It's not Ryan Klesko. That's a good name that dude pull, though. I kind of forgot about Ryan Klesko
I
until
did not.
just now.
that guy was a big donkey.
Yeah. No, it was Jose Martinez.
Jose.
There's a blast from the past.
That is who you were thinking of,
Is that
right?
the guy you were thinking of?
I was thinking Matt Adams.
Oh, you're thinking of okay,
thinking
yeah.
of
Matt Adams is a
Way
lefty.
to be honest, I might have been like, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
thinking
me.
of.
But how about you guys? Favorite opening day memories? I mean, Trevor, you got to play. Like what? Do you have any opening days that stood out?
Well, we were talking about this before, and I was like, is it bad that I can't remember anything standing out from any of my opening days? But it's because my rookie year I didn't make opening day. My second year I came up the second day, so I didn't get to do that either. And the third one we started 0-9, so that didn't feel good. I think my two big ones were probably my first opening day with the Mets. We got COVIDed out against the Nationals, so we had to go play the Phillies. And then I got my first loss by blowing the game in the seventh. Well, not true. I had the base runners out there, and then Loop gave them up.
Aaron
and then,
Loop's fault.
didn't give up any runs for the rest of the year.
All right.
So, it worked out for
Bad
him.
teammated you on opening day.
A big bad teammate thing.
It's one of the worst days to be a bad teammate.
I'm trying to think of a positive one. Maybe 2023 A's win our first game, and then we just don't talk about the next 61.
Did you say you went 11-55 or something?
We went 11-50 in the next 61 games.
Did you win a day game before July that year?
That was we won that day game, and then we didn't win another day game until July.
That's incredible.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff
Why do we
going
have
on
these?
that year.
I have a negative opening day one too, which was I remember opening day the first time I have credentials. I'm working at Oakland Stadium, and I'm trying to get. I'm working at the Coliseum, and I'm trying to get a seat in the press box. And I call the day before opening day, and I'm like, I don't know what this credential does. Do I get a seat? And she's like, you're calling me the day before opening day? No, I don't have a seat for you. And I was like, oh, but I thought my credential gets me a seat. And she's like, oh, are you big timing me now? You're Mr. Who? Are you saying you don't know who I am? And I'm like, no, I literally don't know what this card does for me. I just got it. I just thought it got me a seat. And she's like, yeah, you can have a seat over with the radio people. Ooh. And so for the next 8 years, I sat with the radio people and never asked for an actual seat to any game. I just took my lumps for 8 years. And then I also talked to the opening day pitcher in the clubhouse that day, which is a big no-no. Not supposed to do that. Not supposed to talk to the pitcher on his start. So I made just a series of bumbling errors and just felt like a total idiot. So that was a big opening day memory for me. As a kid, I don't really remember being like, this is opening day. I remember a lot. I remember games. I remember being overwhelmed with like emotion and being at games, but I don't remember like being at an opening day and being like aware as a kid that I was at opening day.
I went to quite a few opening days for a while. A lot of blowouts in Milwaukee. A lot of disappointing opening days. That's where that Lorenzo Cain one really pops for me. But this, very high on the list. It's amazing to see all of you out here. So thank you all so much for being here. We did some bold predictions earlier in the week. We're going to have regular predictions. We're going to talk about division winners, some of the things that we expect to see, and things we're excited to see over the course of this season. Since we're in Giants territory down here, we're going to start with the NL West. And I think when you ask just about anybody who's going to win the division, the typical response is, it's the Dodgers. Fine. Okay, I can accept that. They're the clear favorites. But of the other teams in the NL West, who is most likely to put that 2021 Giants-type season together and put pressure on the Dodgers and maybe make things interesting in this division longer than people are expecting and maybe even win it in the end as a bit of a long shot?
Is it the Giants?
Nope.
No?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Of course you made me answer first.
another sad opening day memory. You get booed at a live show.
Sorry, I threw it to you.
I mean, I think the two teams you have to talk about would be Arizona and San Diego, but I think that just star power alone, like San Diego, if like Manny and Tatis are just having two ridiculous years at the same time, that team gets really good really fast. It's just ceiling stuff, but it's just, that usually never happens. But I think Arizona is a more complete team that is quality. I just don't know if they're a 105 win team. I wouldn't be surprised if they won 90.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, the Padres' ceiling seems higher. I would say the Giants and Diamondbacks' ceilings are similar.
Yeah.
It's going to be a battle. I think those are all four playoff caliber teams. The Rockies are still just not there. Yeah. It's sad. I'm sorry if there are any Rockies fans here. At least your team didn't play today. That's actually probably a good thing if you're a Rockies fan.
Not a loss. There was a piece today on Baseball Prospectus or yesterday where they ran the projection machine, the Bakota projection machine, and like they did it 1,000 times, and they looked at the different outcomes. In one of the outcomes, the Dodgers and the Yankees both won like 118 games. And there were like 6 teams that either won 100 or lost 100, and that was the like no middle class outcome, But they had another one where no team won more than 94 across the entire league, and it was like everyone's middle class one. And I think that the Yankees and the Dodgers have a way higher collapse percentage than maybe we even can appreciate right now, because we look at projections and we say, the Yankees are projected for, what is it here? It's only 87 wins on this right now, but the Dodgers predicted for 97. So, like, these are good teams, but start thinking about the components, be like, Ohtani's on a bum shoulder, like right now, we don't know, what he'll do on a whole season. He's not even supposed to pitch till July. The rotation is full of like Roki Sasaki, who like turned down Tommy John surgery at some point and throws 98, and Glasnow, and like all these people, they could all break apart. Just remember, there was a time last year where I was talking to, and I don't want to blow up Fabian's spot a little bit, but like I was in the clubhouse with Fabian last year, and I was like, this is still a good team, right? And he goes, I don't think they're making the playoffs. Last year. Because there was a time earlier in the season where everyone was hurt, and they were like, we don't know what we're going to do, and they were starting more Land and Knack than they ever thought they were going to have to. And I think that you could see that this year where you're like, this is a fairly old team. It's really obvious when you look at the Yankees. I think you're like, your starting first baseman is 37, and like, I see how this could go badly, Judge gets bust the toe, and Austin Wells is your leadoff guy, and catchers get hurt all the time. Like I could see how the Yankees go bad, but I can also see how the Dodgers go bad. So I think, to answer your question, I think there is a team in this division that could win 97 wins and win the division on a Dodgers team that like got hit by a lot of injuries and slides to 87 or 88 or 89 or even 91 or whatever, and I think it's the Padres. Today, Tatis hit a homer and stole a base. That's not why I'm betting my prediction on, but he's 26 years old, and that's the peak age, And if you think about what he's gone through and the ups and downs, and even if you think about him statistically, what you'll see is a guy who's at times he struck out too much, and at other times he's had the power and struck out too much, or he struck out less and had less power. What if he does the two good things at the same time? And he has a year where he strikes out 20% of the time, is running around on the base paths, and brings that energy. And Machado kind of grows into his leadership role. And I mean, it's all there. They don't have depth, so they don't really if there's too much Turso or Anellis in their lives, it might not work out. But in terms of star power and everybody stays healthy, and a lot of times these great years are when everyone stays healthy, and they just sort of get lucky on the health front.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of reinforcements in terms of the system because they've traded so many guys away, but adding Pivetta, keeping that rotation intact, always having a good bullpen, keeping most of that group together, other than losing Tanner Scott in free agency, they're still going to be good in run prevention. Jackson Merrill could be the third part of that superstar trio. Yeah. If he takes even another small step forward, that gives them maybe one of the best three-player combos among position player groups in the entire league. So they can still hang. They can still hold their own, even against the Dodgers team that does have more depth. So I think I agree with that call, but I guess this kind of fits into the what are you excited to see this year? Corbin Burnes with the Diamondbacks. There's something that happens in the conversation around Corbin Burnes where Orioles fans are just devastated they lost him. And all the analysis on the Orioles is they lost Corbin Burnes. They can only take a step back. No one seems to be talking up the Diamondbacks adding Corbin Burnes to an already solid rotation, right? I mean, this is a really good starting five. And we saw last year, they put more runs on the board than any team in baseball. That stat will surprise me forever. So they can score runs. They've got great starting pitching. They added to the bullpen last year. Maybe it's not the deepest bullpen, but at least their A bullpen is good with Puck, Martinez, and Ginkel, and some of the guys are going to be leaning on often in those close games. So I can see the Diamondbacks being a little more dangerous than they're getting credit for, too.
Yeah, Ketel Marte is a top 5 MVP guy. He's almost the Jose Ramirez of the NL for me. Yeah. They just don't talk about him. He's quietly having an extremely productive season. Corbin Carroll's there. You mentioned the rotation. We got Corbin Burnes. Gallen's already the opening day starter every year anyways. They already had their ace. Merrill Kelly you know exactly what you're getting there. Eduardo Rodriguez, before he got hurt, was one of the most consistent pitchers in the league. And Brandon Pfaadt's their 5, and he threw 181 innings last year. If that's all if the guy throws a 4.5 but throws 180 innings and he's your 5, you'll take it.
Yep.
That bodes for the bullpen, and then Justin Martinez at the back end is I'm just waiting for him to turn a switch and just not give up a hit for 2 months. He's got that kind of stuff. So they're exciting. I mean, we'll see how it's going to be interesting to see how Burns' stuff moves in Chase and going to Colorado a little bit more. Which he's a little bit of a different pitcher, but I don't think it's going to affect him much. He's got great command. So, but he's a true ace. So they have the true ace, and they have the almost MVP caliber, middle lineup guy. That could be it.
Yeah, I think that a little bit rests on Corbin Carroll, maybe Jordan Lawler,
and Naylor.
And Naylor, maybe one of these kind of mid-career younger guys. Because Ketel Marte, you're well, he's mostly going to step, he's not going to be as good as last year. You kind of assume that. And so, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is older, and so you're looking for somebody to step it to the next level. And one thing that I think about Corbin Carroll is that in this spring, he was able to lift the ball with authority and not strike out, and that's when he's at his best. And so I had him as a dark horse prediction for the MVP. Because if he is playing, Gold Glove caliber left field defense and running and putting up a season where he hits 280, goes 30-30, 30-40, something like that, maybe he can even push it and, get into some Shohei. I know it's Shohei. I know it's Shohei. But, if Shohei falls back or is hurt or something, then Corbin is the type of guy who could step into that attention. I mean, I think that's one thing about the Giants. As much as I like them, there's still this kind of residue of these are a lot of good parts that fit together. And that is what happened in the big season was all these little good parts that fit together. They didn't have an MVP type guy on that team either. So maybe we overvalue that sometimes because when I look at this team, I'm these are a lot of good everyday players that play good defense, make contact, hit for power. This could fit together really well. And I think their biggest strength for the Giants will be the starting rotation. I think it really goes 7 or 8 deep. If you put Hicks in that bullpen, I think it's one of the best bullpens in the big league. So if it does happen for the Giants, it's not going to be with an MVP candidate. I think if it does happen for the Diamondbacks, it's a little bit more about Corbin Carroll taking that next step.
Yeah, with the Giants, I mean, you could see if Hicks is a reliever, I like that bullpen a lot better, at least the A bullpen, but they've always had the funk for their B bullpen. I think that's what you want. If your 4th, 5th, 6th relievers aren't dominant, you want them to be different. The Giants continue to tick that box.
But their 4th and 5th relievers are Randy Rodriguez and like Lou Trevino and I don't know. And Sean Hageli, who's like 7 feet tall and releases the ball sidearm. It's a good bullpen.
It's a weird
It's a good
look,
bullpen.
for sure. Yeah, and projection-wise, looking at Fangraphs, 81.2 wins for the Giants, 81.6 for the Padres. There's something in the perception of those two teams that might be a little bit off. When you add Willie Adames in free agency, you do the extension with Matt Chapman. It's a different roster already than what the Giants were trying to follow up that 2021 season with. Plus, it's the Buster Posey era. There are people I saw at the dog park here yesterday that were excited about Buster being in charge. He is loved out here.
He is.
Why?
Can't imagine why. But it's like, it's so funny. It's like he's the president of baseball operations, and people are excited about that. Like, that's cool.
He ain't crap.
What has he ever done?
We were just talking about the grand slam off of Matt Latos. The team is down 2-0 in Cincinnati. They're dead in the water. Nope. Grand slam off Matt Latos. We're back in this thing. Let's win a ship together, boys.
Yeah, easy to see why Buster Posey is loved out here, but you don't usually get that kind of response for someone being in a front office role.
It's true.
You don't usually get someone like Buster Posey taking on the front office role.
Yeah.
Usually you just sail off into the sunset, come back,
A lot
sign
of the
some
other former
autographs.
players were not as good as players. I
Right.
mean, like Jerry DiPoto was a former player.
Yeah, you forget sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, he was better than you think, actually. I looked this up
Was he?
once. He played for 9 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa,
He had a long career.
Yeah.
I'm getting his Fangraphs page up.
So we like the teams putting pressure on the Dodgers, at least for a few different reasons. That division might be a little tighter than the projections would lead us to believe, but we all expect the Dodgers to win. If you had to actually make a prediction, it's the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's move on to America's division, the NL Central. Who brings home the NL Central title? Go ahead, try to appease me here.
The Cubs.
I hate you. Why? Why this
Well,
year?
Pacoda loves them.
Pacoda loves them.
Pacoda has them with 92 wins, loves their offense, and I'm starting to get it, dude, because Pico Armstrong was a different guy in the second half, and you're adding him to the mix with Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ. These are all like lunch pail offensive guys. They all like walk and don't strike out too much or have enough power. And then you have Nico Horner just peppering with balls in play. One thing that reminds me of a little bit is I always had this idea of like lineup diversity where you're like some guys hit for power, some guys get on base, and some guys just make contact. And I had this idea that like if you put together the perfect lineup where everyone's doing different things, that would be better almost than even having one of the best lineups of the same guy over and over again. And I think it has to do with like matchups. Like let's say we have a bunch of guys who hit fly balls and hit them really hard. Well, they're probably scoopy.
Yeah.
And then you probably, as a pitcher, you have probably a couple pitchers you can come in and be like, oh, we're just going to top of the zone these guys all day, right? But if you have a guy who's like line driving everywhere, and then you have a scoopy guy and you have a flat swing guy, it's going to be harder to kind of get them out all the way. And I was actually looking at Miguel Amaya, and this spring he's one of the best like standouts. And you've been saying for a while that you like Miguel Amaya. Mm-hmm. If Miguel Amaya is the worst hitter on your team, and you have the organizational cojones to just put Matt Shaw out there, and just say what I was saying earlier that the Giants should have done with Elliot Ramos like 4 or 5 years ago, which is just put the guy out there and believe in him.
Yeah.
And so Shaw and Amaya are your young guys that you're saying, hey, play good defense, be in the bottom of the lineup. We're gonna give you some rope out there, and we're gonna win games without you for a while, and then you're gonna start to get it together. And so I don't know that I am completely in love with the starting rotation, but it's also full of kind of lunch paily pitchers that all can get outs. They're all kind of veteran guys that know what they do. And the bullpen is better than it's been. I can't say it's one of my favorites in the league, but it's better than it's been. They had to go to work on it, and they did. So it's kind of one of those teams that maybe just coming together.
Well, he mentioned some spring training performances, so I'm going to bring up the big one. Jackson Chourio and the Brewers are going to win it again this year because they always seem to do it, and I don't understand why.
It's the Guardians effect, right?
Yeah,
they just find a way.
You could just they could throw Scrabble tiles against the wall, put a bunch of random names it made, and I'd be like, yep, they're probably developed pretty well and gonna throw. That guy probably throws 98.
Have you heard anything about their coaching or anything? Like I just know that people say their coaching is good, and Myers was saying their coaching was good.
I've heard a lot. It always came to Stearns, and he's not there anymore, but the whole crew that was with him is. And by all accounts, Murphy's on the same page as well. So I like Chourio a lot. I think they have a lot of good young talent. And they just kind of end up getting the job done. It's kind of like that's really, really all it is. I think that Trevor McGill is going to be a stud back into their bullpen. I think he found his place and how he's going to pitch, and just going to take over for Williams, and they're just going to have another closer.
You ain't kidding about Chourio's spring, dude.
Yeah, he hit like 500.
469, 509, 714 with a 13% strikeout rate. And a lot of those balls in play, I don't know if I believe it. Like, obviously, I don't think he's going to hit 469. But a 13% strikeout rate, that's not where he lived last year.
He had like 50 at-bats.
Yeah.
He got some reps.
Yeah. 20-plus hits in spring's pretty good. Pretty good.
All right, so Trevor's on the Brewers. Eno's on the Cubs. I, of course, have to pick the Brewers. I watch them every day, and I can't tell you how they do it. It seems like every year it gets a little thinner. The roster gets a little thinner. They lose a key player. They find a way to backfill. It's the player development. The projections in this division are airtight on Fangraphs. You have the Cubs projected for 82.9 wins, Brewers 81.6, Cardinals 78.9, Reds 78.2, Pirates 78. The Pirates did
definitely
the thing
feels a little
today.
better than the Pacoda one, where it's like 92 Cubs, and then they have the Brewers at 79. So they have a 92, and the Brewers are in second with 79 wins.
13 games.
That seems a little odd.
That's a big gap. Are we writing off the Cardinals too early? I mean, they're in a slight rebuild mode, but it's still not a bad roster. At least it looks solid on paper, and it looks competitive in this group. I mean, they could be the team that kind of plays the middle, ends up having a good first half, and quietly becomes buyers at the trade deadline if they're still within a couple of games of first place in the Central come July.
Yeah, I think it's a close division. I think both Centrals are going to be very close. But I think you're right. It's just more the same, and they haven't been great for the last 2 years. So if the same roster is going out, you can't really expect anything to change in any meaningful way. I think their hits leader last year was Brendan Donovan. They're hoping he does that again. A Mason Wynn probably needs to be even better or keep getting better and become like the center of their next kind of crop. And he's looking like he's going to, even though he didn't have a great spring. But other than that, it's like, Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Matz is probably on the IL.
He's a sixth starter right now, or long man at least.
Sonny Gray, 91.3 today.
Not great. And
he's definitely their best pitcher. And after that, I'm like, who's gonna step forward?
Not a lot of swing and miss really anywhere in the pitching staff anymore at all.
And that's been the organizational shortcoming in the last at least half decade, but maybe even longer than that. They just haven't developed enough swing and miss in that pitching. But now you think Chaim Bloom taking over really after this season, John Mozeliak's last year. Things are going to change in St. Louis. I feel like for the rest of the division, especially for the Brewers and Cubs, the window for them to be a little bit better than the Cardinals on paper might not last very long. This is a team that should be able to rebuild pretty quickly with Chaim Bloom at the helm. Between the Reds and Pirates, do you have one team that you're more optimistic about getting there ahead of schedule this year? I mean, the Pirates did the exact thing today that I am constantly worried about, blowing it with high-quality starting pitching, not getting it done, either not scoring enough runs or, in today's case, just coughing up leads late.
They're going to have a runs problem. That's kind of what they, being projected. So they have to be airtight with the pitching because they have the studs. It's a coin flip for me because I want to be like, well, it's Ellie and then it's Paul Skeens, but Ellie can influence more games. So though he was he had like a 7.5 WAR last year, so he was a very, very valuable player, and he led the league in strikeouts. So if that just goes down a little bit, and he still does everything else the same way, he's a MVP candidate. I think he's like 4th in the odds to win the MVP this year. So, like, you got a guy who can be an MVP. There's a lot to work with there, and they're really athletic. What's a full year of McLean look like healthy? Because that guy's just a pure hitter. And they have great stuff in the rotation. Hunter Green could be a top 5 Cy Young guy if he does what he did last year. He looks like he's developing. So, like, they have a true ace and then an MVP-type candidate. They might be farther ahead.
The vibes in here changed so much once Hunter Green was out of that game. I know Elliot Ramos got him for a homer, but Hunter Green looked really good today. Huge meltdown from Ian Jabot cost Hunter Green.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about the Pirates bullpen, but like the Reds bullpen is
Did the same thing.
Not good.
Awful. Just terrible. So,
and let's not forget that the Pirates have a Cruz of their own in O'Neill Cruz. So, he may be a little bit older and may not be as good against lefties, and it's not quite Ellie, but he is a pretty exciting player. So, I think they'll cobble together enough at bats. I kind of think that. For some reason, Spencer Horwitz matters for this team. I know it's such a stupid little name to hang my hat on, but no, I think if he can be a league average or better first baseman, they haven't had that in a while. And it kind of starts to lengthen the lineup so that you start looking at it, you go, if Spencer Horwitz is league average, then the worst players on this team are like their starting catcher and their shortstop. That's kind of old school. That kind of actually might work, where you're just like, hey, the shortstop's in there for defense, the catcher's in there for defense. Oh, and by the way, it's Joey Bart, and, he's going to run into 23. Sorry, I know. Yeah. Should be doing it here, but that didn't happen. Any case, I think the Pirates. I'm into the Pirates. I actually think they could sneak in a wild card.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty bold prediction to sneak that one in there, but I could see it if they find the bats. I'm not as confident in Spencer Horwitz, among others, actually being good enough to pull that off.
You'll see someday. You'll see. Maybe 3 years from now.
We have another trivia question. For a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, new subscribers only, or a pint glass. Name one of 4 players to have a 3-homer game on opening day. Tuffy Rhodes.
Who did it?
Tuffy Rhodes. Come on up.
Go.
Come claim your prize.
Subscription or glass? There you go.
Tuffy Rhodes did it in 1994.
Congrats.
The most recent player to do it, Matt Davidson.
Who was a pitcher. He was a pitcher, too.
I forgot about that. 2018, completely erased from my memory. Dimitri Young did it in 2005, and George Bell was the first to do it in 1988.
This is slightly random, but Tuffy Rhodes went, I think, on to Japan to be like a great hitter in Japan.
He mashed in Japan.
And just set all these homer records in Japan. The current guy who used to be here who is killing records in Japan right now, Franmil Reyes, and his number is 100.
He's wearing number 100?
Yes, I just love that. I saw a clip and I was like, I love you. I just want to reach through the screen and hug you.
Is he still 25?
Yeah, on paper.
Someone told me that. I was like, who's this guy? And he stood in the box. I'm like, that guy, that's a grown-up. That guy's a grown-up.
That guy's definitely 30.
Did you see the kid that the Padres got busted on? That they were like, oh, he's not 13, he's 19. Did you see that? And then they had clips of him. There's all these 13-year-olds. This guy's like a foot and a half taller than all of them. It's like, oh, yeah, that guy's not 13.
I don't even know where to go from here. Let's go to the NL East. Close out the NL. Projections have a 6 to 7 win gap from the Braves down to the Phillies and the Mets. Are you buying the gap between those teams actually being that large, Trevor?
No. They're all good. I would say the Braves and the Phillies are probably going to be battling it out a little bit harder than the Mets, but I think that all 3 teams are going to be in that mix for a while. I think we're just waiting to see with the Mets and their consistency. But I have the Phillies winning the division because I think they're still to this day one of the most complete teams. Again, it comes down to especially day one. I'm worried about consistency, and they have their rotation locked. They have their position players locked. They've had them. They have a good smattering of guys they brought up and guys they've signed, and maybe the bullpen's a little leaky or looks like a little without Hoffman, but they have electric arms. I think Jordan Romano's going to bounce back when he's in a competitive team again because that's how he operates. When your team's really good, he operates on pure adrenaline, and I think he's going to thrive there if he's healthy. So, I mean, they know exactly who 1 through 9 is every night, and that is a huge luxury. But I think the Braves' ceiling and talent overall, top to bottom, is higher. We'll just see what do Strider and Acuna, what effect do they have and how quickly. Like, that's, I think, what it comes down to. How soon are we getting them and how good are they when they get them?
I wonder, I don't know if you've been in a clubhouse that had this. So Nick Castellanos is projected to be like the third worst right field, like his position right field is supposed to be one of the third worst positions in baseball. And so he's like really bad. He's projected to basically be replacement. But he's like cool. Like, I don't know, like he says funny things.
Yeah.
And he somehow takes, I think, attention away from Harper, in a good way.
Yeah.
Like Harper can some days just like shower and leave.
Yeah.
And Castellanos will maybe say something dumb, but like it's quotable
Yeah.
and it's fun and like people will talk about it and they won't talk about how Bryce Harper left early.
Yeah.
Have you been in a clubhouse where there's been this sort of like wingman? I can think of Curtis Granderson in the Mets clubhouse when like things were bad. Curtis Granderson wasn't a star anymore, but he was always there to talk. It wasn't quite the same energy as Castellanos, but like having a second guy that can stand up, take the heat off the first guy, that has some value, right?
Yeah, tons of value. That's an interesting case you make too. It's as an opposing player, they have so many solid players that do different things well that sometimes when you're going through you're like, oh yeah, Harper. Yeah. Like I got to worry about Harper.
Or a lot of times for Castellanos, be like, don't think about Castellanos because you made a game plan for the first 5 guys and you're exhausted from making the game plan for those guys. You're like, whatever.
So
Castellanos swings at everything, right?
Yeah.
And then you drift something over the plate and he bangs it, right?
Yeah. Well, and he's also hitting the home runs at those weird times all the time. So that also helps. Yeah. He's always answering those weird questions.
He's great at taking the tension out of a broadcast. Yeah. Off the charts.
Yeah. He's great at just keeping it light. He does it with his bat too.
Yeah. That's the real gift. That's hard to do. That kind of timing, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
There's another thing that I think is interesting about the Phillies is this, and it's this is a vibes check again, but I think it's interesting. So I think that we as humans are like always want to be like first on, and especially in this group, like especially in fantasy or like scouting or something, like first on that guy. Oh, I was first on Sean Burke. Y'all didn't know about him before I got here.
Get that victory lap in, man.
Yeah, exactly. I did a couple times.
The March victory lap, always a good idea.
But anyway, my point is we're trying to grab a team even on the that's the player level. It's really obvious on the player level. I think it's true on the team level too, where like we want to be like, oh yeah, like was like kind of in on the Pirates for a while and like that, but I think this is the year of almost like second chances of teams that were good, that we've liked before, that are still good.
Yeah.
And like you could say like we forgot about them. We didn't forget about them. They're still good, but like today we talked about a couple teams like that. The Padres and the Phillies, are teams that have been hanging around. They're good. And one of these years they're going to have their year.
Yeah.
And it's all going to come together, and then we're going to have to pretend like we were in on them from the beginning.
And I will. I'm definitely going to do that.
Hey, you got it out here today.
And the Phillies just fit right into that. It's just like the Padres, where it's like, hey, this is like, don't forget, this is a really good team.
I think it's interesting too, though, because when the window opens, we're always excited. Oh, hey, this Orioles team, they look great. And year 2, year 3, what's wrong with this Orioles team? They haven't won yet.
Yeah,
winning really hard. But you look at the Phillies up and down this lineup, it's guys that have been together on this team, that have been in the postseason together, that have made runs before. They're really good. They're one of the most complete teams in baseball. I'm with you that especially on paper, the projections are going to like them better than the Mets. The Mets add Soto, they add depth to that rotation. Nice bullpen like we talked about on our reliever ranking show, I think last week now. It is still a David Stearns kind of smaller market build with what they did at first, of course, then splashing the money on Soto. The rest of that roster hasn't come together yet, and I think the thing that's going to make the Mets extra dangerous is when a team can add limitless payroll mid-season, everybody and everything is on the table. So the team you see right now is probably not at all the team you're going to see in August, right? There could be 2 or 3 big additions.
What's the big addition? I mean, I'm starting to feel this like maybe middle classy year where despite all the attention put on the big teams that spend a lot of money, that there's actually kind of a race to the middle. Like, is there an Angels pitcher you want to put on the Mets? You know what I mean? Like, is there a Rockies pitcher they're going to come out and get? Like, a lot of these teams are picked clean. I don't know. Like, the only thing I can think of is, like, Sandy Alcantara joins the Mets on August 1, and that could be like that could be a crowning piece right there.
And that doesn't even take Steve Cohen's money to pull off either.
Yeah. It is in division. I don't know if Bendix is down for that, but he's
also
down to trade anybody. So
it won't even matter
do they
for a
have
while.
the prospect depth? I think I don't know. Would they have to give up Acuna to make that happen?
I think they would give up Luis Angel Acuna to get
Yes, I think
Sandy
they
Alcantara.
would.
I don't think they'd even think twice about it.
Yeah.
I think the other part of the Mets that'll be interesting is how their pitching development comes along. Guys like Brandon Sproat. I know Christian Scott's hurt right now too, but they may have more of a supporting cast coming through that system, because if they build the pitching lab, build the pitching machine that Stearns had in Milwaukee, that's going to also make this team more dangerous. They'll have 8th, 9th starters they can turn to eventually that
You're a
actually
big
step
Hef
in
fan,
and
right?
take
huge
off.
Hef fan. Yeah, Jeremy Hefner. He's probably just a kid in a candy store now. He's just like, can we get all the stuff? And Stearns like, yes. And so depth has been the issue, in actually for a very long time, where they lose. It was DeGrom most of the time, but when you lost DeGrom, it made the team look completely different. I think they're in a different situation now. So where they have guys coming back with when Manaea comes back and Montas, and they're getting Senga, a full season of him if he's healthy. I think Senga has the potential to be a very, very good pitcher to where nobody wants to see him. And I think he's
Like
been
be their
slept on
ace
a little
for
bit
them, or
too.
they're
I think
one
the
or
number
two,
one guy, yeah. And they wanted to be that in the playoffs, but that wasn't really fair to him, frankly. It's really hard to do that at all, especially in those games. But they have more depth than they've had in the past, and the bullpen is nice.
Strikeout rate this spring?
No,
38%.
I didn't know that. Didn't see that coming.
They just gave him a sinker, and he's like, now I'm good.
Yeah, they got the sinkers over there, which it's funny. That wasn't even on Hef's radar last time I talked to him. So
he wasn't trying to teach you a sinker.
No, I got to pick his brain now.
I mean, that's actually just off the record. Like that's like a really important thing.
Yeah.
Is to like keep growing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like Hef's not teaching the same things now that he was teaching you.
No.
You know, that's cool.
I'm going to back the Phillies call. I think it's going to be close. I think the Braves are very good. I think they're also a playoff team, but I think the Phillies do actually win this division. Where are you on this one, I'm
going to take the Mets. I like the Braves, but I don't know. Profar coming off a career year. I don't know I think Acuna will come back a little bit like he did last time, which is fine, but it's not like this. He was the straw within the drink kind of deal when he was at his best. I know they won without him, which is just kind of crazy, but I don't know. Orlando Arcia, like I see holes in the lineup, and I see a lot of guys coming off of career years. So between like Arcia, Profar, Ozuna, those are step backs. I do like AJ Smith-Shawver and Grant Holmes, so I think they have some depth. This bullpen leaves me cold. I don't like the bullpen at all.
I like the bullpen a little better than you do, but it's taken a small step back. At least on paper. Maybe we'll have some pleasant surprises.
No Jesse Chavez. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
Always. Always,
See him in
always,
June.
always. Get some Kayakers Cove if you haven't already.
Oh, we've got Lester Koga in the house. Come on.
Lester is our fantastic host here.
Can we get him a microphone? Over here.
Yeah, where'd the handheld go?
Yeah. Thank you. Lester, here, come have a seat.
Well, I'm gonna squeeze in.
Can you?
Can you squeeze
Ow.
down?
Yeah,
I
just slide
can.
over. Yeah.
Ow.
Sorry,
we
like
go.
this is the first time I've worn my. I'm not even calling it my A's jersey, but it's my Oakland jersey.
Yeah, that's right.
But out of respect for Trevor, because the last game I ever saw was the game he pitched on the reverse boycott. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorites ever.
That
Yeah.
was a fun game, man. That was sold out. That was like, I was like, see,
Absolutely.
baseball in Oakland works. God, that was a good day. That was better than most of my opening day memories.
I would say so too. Yeah, it's probably top memory for me. Yeah.
But Lester and I collaborated. We got some input from Derek, and we made this Kayakers Cove. I hope you enjoy it.
Who's had Kayaker's Cove?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the Barebottle side of this, where it sort of started with we did a little tasting session upstairs.
Yep.
And you have...
Thanks to B. Smith.
Yeah,
You guys, can we give it up for B. Smith? Come
Producer
Brian.
And you had a rice lager kind of hopped up rice lager kind of session beer.
Yep.
What was that beer? And then how did we kind of iterate off of that?
Yeah, so we had a rice lager, so Kyoto Crush to those who are familiar with Barebottle. And it was great because we were just kind of hanging out, drinking beers. And it's like, okay, like, we're going to do this podcast. Like, let's make a beer that you want to do. And was like, well, I love rice lagers, I love IPAs. And I'm like, well, we can do both. Like, and we'll put it in the same beer. And the next step down was like, hey, like, what hops do you like? He's like, oh, I love Citra on the hot side. I'm like, we can do that too. So kind of the evolution of the beer started as a rice lager. What I've been doing a lot here at Barebottle is, as I get older and as we get older, I just can't drink as many 7% IPAs like before. So I'm like, you know what? I want an IPA, but I want 5% is my goal. So I call it like hop density, right? If you drink this beer, there's a lot of density of hop flavor, and it's a lot harder to get that density of hop flavor in 5% alcohol. And so that's actually where adding the rice was really helpful, because the rice kind of gives you a lot of this residual body. So that rice lager actually helped with giving you the body to then layer all the different hops on top of. So, I mean, this is hopped as much as our 7% IPAs. And it's great. And I thought, like, the whole idea of using Citra on the hot side, that was really good. We've got some hop growers kind of in the next aisle over. They grew some of the hops that we're using. Talus was really fun. And then we had a new hop called Peacherine that we hadn't used before. So anytime we try to do a collab, we try to do something unique and different that we haven't done before. We haven't used Talus in the hot side. We haven't used Peacherine. So like, okay, like, let's layer these two together. Nelson, Citra, Peacherine, Talus, like a really, really great kind of hop flavor, hop aroma. And at 5%, like, you can finish a 4-pack and still be okay.
Well, let's toast you. You brought
Yeah.
You brought a 4-pack over. Here we go. I just really had so much fun because I got to I've done some collaborations before, and I don't normally actually get my hands dirty. And it was really nice to get up there and throw some hops in the whirlpool. And my favorite thing about how this came out, and I kind of knew it was going to happen the way you described how you're going to hop this and stuff. It smells so good. I just want to put my face in it. I don't even want to drink it. I just want to, like, it's like a pillow. I just want to put my face in it. So I just wanted to toast you real quick, and thank you for letting us do this event here. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you over the last couple of weeks and learning your story and learning about Barebottle. And I just think that you guys do such a great job of mixing the greats that we all know about, the kind of tentpole beers that you have, and bringing in this innovation and collaboration. So. A toast to Lester Koga and a toast to Barebottle for having this event.
Yeah, happy opening day. Cheers.
Thank you. Everybody at Barebottle too. Yes, everybody who helped make this thing happen. Thank you.
It's the stuff.
It is great. I didn't try it before the show. It's awesome.
It smells so good.
I'm with you.
Oh, but I'm so sorry about losing your team, dude. And I suggest you don't go out to Sacramento because
I've been there before. It's hot.
Well, not only that, they sold all their tickets, so you can only get it on the secondary market, and they're driving prices through the roof. It's just something kind of ugly about all that.
It's horrible, and I think our loyalty to our teams as fans is probably stronger than it really needs to be. This is the clearest choose any team you want to be a fan of. Get out of jail free card.
You're gonna stay a baseball fan.
You can
and
stay
try
an
a
A's
new one?
fan. You can do anything you want. Like, what do you do now? Like, this is such a weird situation.
Yeah, I mean, what's great too, though? I mean, we're in the middle of Giants country, right? We're in the middle of San Francisco. But if you look around here, there's a lot of A's jerseys,
Yeah.
and it's always been that way. I was just joking with somebody. We would make like an A's colorway Barebottle shirt and a Giants colorway Barebottle shirt. And every year we look at the sales, and the A's colorway shirt outsold the Giants.
Wow.
And what does that tell
That's
you in San
surprising.
Francisco? So
It sounds to me like baseball is viable in Oakland. I don't know.
I got to be careful what I say. I'm in San Francisco right now.
Our merch is supposed to be on Eno's porch right now. It was supposed to arrive yesterday, but it should be here tomorrow.
If you want a reason to come back tomorrow, merch.
Yeah.
We got some Barebottle pints to give away. Why don't you guys give away some
Yeah,
pint
we're
glasses?
doing. Do we have another? Can we do another piece of trivia going into the next one?
Oh, yeah. We can get another trivia question. We're going to get to the AL West predictions here. So, all right, for a pint glass or a one-year subscription to The Athletic, if you're a new subscriber, which AL team is projected to score the most runs according to Pacoda? I heard Astros. Who had Astros? Come on up. Yes, it is the Astros. So the Astros are projected by Pacoda to score 754 runs. Nice pull. The Braves, Mets, Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks are all projected to score more by that same projection system, which is weird. I mean, the AL seems more open than usual this year.
Wide open. This was the hardest. Usually it's just one division, but all of them. One of my bold takes was that no American League team wins more than 92 games. Like they'll just beat up on each other all year, and that's a good sign because usually those teams are pretty resilient going into the playoffs. Teams that aren't used to sweeping all season and are used to grinding out series. That's what you need to do. So, but you say AL West is where we're starting?
Yeah, starting the AL West.
The popular one is Texas, and with the absolutely nothing the Mariners did, which is just it hurts me, and the steps back Houston took with putting a 1 year in the minor league guy, third baseman in right field, and then putting Jose Altuve in left. I don't know if that's the smartest idea. I hope it doesn't have adverse effects on Jose Altuve because he's going to need to do a lot for this team to hit those runs
I
totals.
wonder if he could have hurt himself out there. I mean, I'm not saying he will, but
Have you heard his interviews about left?
He
doesn't
into it?
seem confident at all. He's just like, yeah, we'll figure it out.
It's
I've been
a
around a long
weird
time.
place to play left field.
It is,
and he's got declining speed, so he can't just be like.
he can't just athletic it.
Yeah.
He's gotta have good reads, and it's just it's a learning process. So, and then he's leading off. He's got to run in, run in the first inning every time, and he likes to swing at the first pitch. I know that for a fact. So, Texas. I think the one question mark is like the whole starting rotation has missed like 60% of their last 2 years, like everybody. Which, if that happens again, then they're no longer a lock, in my opinion. Like their pitching goes down fast. They need DeGrom to throw 150 innings. He hasn't done it since 2019. So that's a big ask. He's older, but if he does, I still think Jacob DeGrom, if he's pitching and feels good and not telling you something's bothering him, he's still the best pitcher on the planet. Like, he just does not give up runs. He just doesn't. He's either hurt or doesn't give up runs.
We talk about depth sometimes, and I think usually depth is good. The depth in their rotation right now is John Gray, who has a broken wrist, Patrick Corbin, Cody Bradford, who is not throwing for the next 4 months. And as much as I like Adrian Hauser and Dane Dunning, they're all right. They feel a little bit.
Guy.
Yeah, right. Like kind of sinkery, stay in the game, give up 4 runs over 6 or something.
Yeah.
It really needs to go right. It needs to be Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter.
They need to be the guys.
They need to be guys. And they're young, and they might be guys, but that doesn't mean they're going to be guys right away. I mean, the story of pitching right now is that it takes guys a little while to be dudes.
And Kumar hasn't thrown a ton of innings.
Yeah, you got to manage him really carefully.
He had his own
really
injury
have a good plan
issues.
against lefties.
And Leiter hasn't had a lot of success.
I thought you were picking the Rangers.
I am, but but I'm just it's precarious. But I'm so disgusted with the Mariners that I can't in good conscience, and I just refuse to do the Houston again because that's boring.
This makes no sense at all. But I'm going to pick the Mariners.
Okay.
I could do the same thing though. So I'm going to pick the Mariners and be like, their second baseman is Ryan Bliss. Their third baseman is Jorge Polanco, who they released and couldn't get a deal and came back.
And has never also played third base.
And has never played third base, and you're asking him to do something. I was on the radio there in Seattle today, and they were like, they're talking a good game about Luke Raley and Rowdy Tellez, but we don't believe them. And I'm like, man, this is your flagship radio station just being like, we don't think we have a first base. I was like, Luke Raley is good, I promise.
Luke Raley is good.
I think, and this is really scientific, but Mitch Garver is good in every other year.
Yeah.
So he, hey, listen, you pipe down, San Franciscans.
Yeah.
I
knows,
remember
10,
something about
12,
it, even year, odd year
Hey,
thing.
but Bruce Bochy's pretty good every other year, too. What did he do 2 years ago?
But
Continues.
by my math, he should have a 140 WRC plus this year, Mitch Garver. It's science. It's science.
It's science.
So if he has a 140 WRC plus, that's a pretty good DH. Victor Robles, he's the man.
No, he's not. Victor Robles will break your heart, man.
No.
Like I'm telling you.
Here's my thing. I have, and this is blowing up your rundown, but I have Julio Rodriguez as the AL MVP. And the reason that I do this is that because he has these great streaks. He starts off a little slow, and then he has these great streaks. Well, he did not start off slow. He had 5 homers in the spring and just looked like amazing in the spring. And then what really hurt him in some of these years has been getting hurt during a hot streak. And I think that if he just puts together the full season, and if he maybe starts on a good streak, you could see something where he just has that good streak all year.
Yeah.
If he has that good streak all year, it's an MVP up the middle with Cal Raleigh, who's probably the second best all-around catcher in baseball, if not first best. I mean, he's right there with William Contreras. And Randy Arozarena, like they've put this stuff together. I think somebody steps forward. Ryan Bliss, Cole Young. I think Colt Emerson is their starting second baseman by August. And Colt Emerson just showed elite bat speed in spring training and is a legit prospect. So I think they just will turn up the dials on somebody like Cole Young or Colt Emerson will get a chance before. Like I'm not being mean to Ryan Bliss. He does some things well. But I just don't think he's a starting second baseman in this league. So I'm like looking at the young guys behind him, and they have young guys in the position of need, which is something I love. I love that. Like I love that about the Red Sox. It's like they have some positions of need. Oh, they have Christian Campbell and Roman Anthony in those positions of need. So I think that the Mariners have young guys in the places they need.
Yeah, I do think being able to bring up supporting cast in key spots will make a difference for them. With the Astros, it's strange to do what they're doing defensively. Definitely strange. It's still a good lineup top to bottom. I think Isaac Paredes fits a lot better in Houston than he did trying to play in Wrigley. So I think his approach helps him bounce back. Jordan seems healthy for now. If Jordan's hurt, this is a very top-heavy sort of lineup. It's kind of a critique we've had about the Yankees in the non-Soto year, where if Judge went down, you were just worried they weren't going to score enough runs. This rotation is still underrated. Hunter Brown, we've talked about it so many times in the show from May 1st on last year, was electric. Framber Valdez is a machine, kind of a left-handed Logan Webb. Just goes out there, gets ground balls, chews up innings, and is really effective doing it. I like Hayden Wesneski as an acquisition for the back end.
Depth is pretty bad.
Depth, they're relying on injured guys getting healthy to
Luis
be the depth
Garcia
later.
might be shut down. It almost sounds like a revision. I don't know. It doesn't sound good.
No, and Christian Javier is like more of a second-half sort of guy. So that's where things could break down on Houston. I think I like that Mariners call a little bit. I'm still chuckling at Britt Giroli's call for the bold predictions that the A's would actually get to the postseason. But the more I look at these three teams, the more I can actually see that coming together.
I have a real question for you on pitching mechanics. So Lance McCullers says that when he throws a sweeper, he wants to throw it like a pizza box. He wants to
Sling it sideways. Yeah, get on the side of the ball.
That seems bad for your elbow. Like this, like I'm doing this at 85 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Is this the accepted way of throwing a sweep? Like when you throw a sweeper, they're like,
You
Sling
do,
the
but you
pizza
do it.
pie.
You do it with your natural hand position. So like I would think just that way, but I would still not. I wouldn't.
but the edger isn't like.
It's not like that's how 8-year-olds are told. They're like throw a slider, and you just think, okay, slide. So you just try to. That's how I thought throwing a slider was when I was a kid. And that's not how it worked. So, but you do need to be on the side of the ball. I just think that maybe he's like snapping it out maybe.
That's what I'm thinking. Like if
Yeah.
it's swinging a piece, like that's almost like a forehand in frisbee,
Yeah.
where you got the two fingers
Yeah.
under and you kind of
Yeah, you just flick it.
like that would. If you're doing that at 85 miles an hour, I'd be like, don't do that.
It wouldn't feel good at 85 miles an hour.
It wouldn't feel good for me, but some guys do some weird stuff.
All right.
If I try to throw like Tyler Rogers, I wouldn't feel very
Well,
good the
right,
next day
right.
either.
Your hips would hurt pretty quickly.
My back would be gone.
So we get another trivia question before we get to the AL Central. Same prizes as before. Name 2 of the rotations that are currently ranked between 6th and 10th in Fangraphs WAR as of today. So not top 5, but inside the top 10. That's what we're looking for. If you can name 2, you get a prize.
I came up with this question, and I just think it's fascinating because we're asking who the mid rotations are. They're not bad. They're mid. Can you
They're a little
come
better
up with
than
mid? Like mid plus?
Mid plus.
Who's mid plus?
You need 2 out of the 5.
You got to get 2.
Cubs are not one. Astros and Blue Jays, no. Red Sox, Braves, no. I heard Pirates, that's a no. Twins are 1. Who said Twins? Who's the second one? Put a second one with them. Giants? No. Guardians? No. Someone say Rays? No. Braves? No.
No one said both
See,
ones
this
I have
is
in
so
my head.
hard.
This is a pretty good
Now
trick
I'm really
question.
interested if my 2 are in there, but I want someone to get it.
Yeah, someone's got to get it. We got Twins plus D-backs. I heard D-backs from the guy that said Twins. Yes.
Yeah,
Come get your prize.
on up.
Who are the other 3? I was thinking Padres.
Nope.
Oh, he's
Detroit?
wearing a Twins jersey. That's great.
Detroit's one of them. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Do you want a
2 more.
subscription
What we
or
just
glass?
talked about.
Okay.
The Rangers. The Rangers? The Rangers are in there, and the Reds are also in there
Okay.
as the 6 through 10. This
Isn't
is
that the weirdest group?
This is the weirdest question. You know, I can't even.
Reds?
Doesn't make any sense.
I was looking for trivia. I was just sorting stuff, and a lot of it was like, oh yeah, duh, and then I was like, wait, 5 through 10 in starting pitching is just the strangest group of teams. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The Twins are hard for projection systems to figure out. You know, I think they don't get enough credit for, you know. Britt was talking the other day about like they don't fire people in the Twins organization.
No, they don't.
So a lot of that happened in Texas, and it led to stagnation, and that led to that. Honestly, is why John Daniels had to go, was because he wasn't firing people, he wasn't modernizing,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, the Twins have given us some parts of modern pitching.
Oh no, they're just adding. They just don't subtract ever.
That's how they're $400 million in debt.
I can say this
That's where the debt came
for a fact. Last time I played there was 2020. All the support staff, all the guys in the clubhouse, and the
They're all
PR
still
people,
there?
they're all still. Every single person still works there. All of them. The video guy, the photographer, they're all the same people.
So they just keep adding.
Yeah.
That's how you lose money. I
great.
guess.
That can't be how they racked up all that debt. But let's business and baseball stuff aside. On paper, the AL Central is tough every year. Projections like the Twins. The projections are always a little light on the Guardians. We know the deal with that by now. Royals and Tigers get into the postseason last year. Maybe some pullback for the Royals. I think it's harder to see them getting all the way back to the level they're at last year. The Tigers, I think I have a slightly easier time talking myself into another playoff appearance, but it'd be hard for me to say that I think they're going to win this division.
That's Cleveland.
Could nobody
Cleveland.
win a division?
That's not possible.
No. Okay.
Though I do think like 7 games is going to separate all. It's going to be like 2, 4, 6,
And then-
and 58.
58. Hey, they won today.
They did. They are undefeated. But it's gonna those 4
I
teams.
think maybe they're going to do the 11 and 50 from
Oh,
here.
They might.
you're warning them.
They could be on their way. Just because Cleveland's again, they're just solidly put together. The guys who they have are the guys that they want. If that makes sense? So, and then they have that bullpen. Though the big red flag is every single guy threw 75 times last year, and that you cannot maintain that for more than a year and a half or 2. So at some point, someone's going to be, I got some elbow soreness, and then another guy's going to be, my shoulder. They're going to lose 2 of their studs, and it's going to get weaker
Class
real
A
quick.
blew it today.
Yeah.
And,
Or they'll get less sharp.
they could get
So
less sharp.
they leaned on that. But I like Bybee. I think Gavin Williams could be a higher stuff guy. They're going to get Bieber back at some point, and they just have really good development. And I think Vogt has a good idea of how to mix and match. But every year they have a guy like Mazzardo or something that they need to. Yeah. So but they're going to need like Mazzardo to hit 3, and Ramirez do most of the heavy lifting all year.
You love that guy too, right?
I do.
I love that guy.
They are.
Everyone loves Steven Vogt.
Love that guy.
It's funny. You play them and you lose, and you just don't feel like they beat the crap out of you. You're just like, dang, we'll get them tomorrow,
Good
and then
guys.
they beat you 4 straight times. You're like, oh well, good guys, yeah, good guys. Man, they're quality players. These guys play the game right.
So you tell yourself you get swept by Cleveland?
Yeah.
I've got so my theme this year, my narrative for this year is second chances, teams that we've liked before, teams that are still good. So I'm going with the Twins.
Wow.
This is the year where Byron Buxton plays 120
Yeah, I was going to say stop at 105.
games. Carlos Correa
Plays 106.
Wait, we had this fun thing where Carlos Correa over the last 3 years has averaged something like 500 plate appearances per year.
It's not as bad as the reputation. Yeah. It's still not ideal if he's one of your 2 or 3 best position players.
It is not. And there was a story that just came out. I think Dan Hayes wrote it about how Carlos Correa described the last 2 months of last year as a S-word show and said that they started like backfighting and like there was like the clubhouse was no good. And but I love Rocco Baldelli the same way as Voter. So I don't know why that happened. I could see Correa's like kind of like I think he's seen in the clubhouse as kind of like the media guy, and not necessarily like a real leader. And that can be problematic because he's the highest paid position player. That's often your default leader. So they may be in search of a real leader, but I've been on record saying I love Brooks Lee. Julian is like a good, or Julian, sorry, I always want to make him French. Julian is a good, like strong side slugger guy that can play first or play second. Royce Lewis, let's just, I'm going all in, man. Royce Lewis, 120 games.
I thought you were going to say 90.
120 for all of them. I'm just giving them 120 games. Listen, if you got 360 games combined out of those 3 players, don't you think they win the division?
As long as their starting pitching stays healthy, yeah.
But no, I say no. I'm not giving you that. I don't care.
You think because of Festa and Zebi that they have enough depth they can even lose a starter or 2.
Yes. And that bullpen is underrated good.
Yes.
People don't know who Cole Sands is, and they should. So, and he's their third guy. Jorge Alcala throws 98-mile-an-hour sinkers, and they're these things like the blaps.
Louis Varland can throw 100. Brock Stewart can throw 100.
Yeah.
Yohan Ron throws 100.
Yeah.
Kala throws 100, and Griffin Jackson throws the softest, and he's probably the most effective.
And his is frisbee everything, frisbee down, frisbee side, everything. So, and he's learned a changeup over the few years.
Surprise.
So I it's all about those 3 for me: Royce, Carlos, and Buxton. I think if they stay healthy, they can do this.
It's the team I'm most wrong about, I think, on the show. I always overproject the Twins. I'd love to be wrong about them again.
So I'm going to pick them. They're going to do well.
No, I'm gonna get on board. I'm gonna sink your projection.
Pick others, a different
I'm
team.
taking you down with me this time.
Come on, there's 2 other ones that can do it. Come on.
No, and here's my thing. I think the Tigers are getting better.
Yeah.
I was surprised when we were doing the team reliever rankings. You had the Tigers in your top 10. We didn't talk about it. We ran out of time. What do you like about that bullpen? A few surprises there. They sent Jason Foley down. Not that I think that Jason Foley's an elite reliever, but led them in saves last year. Seems like an important piece, at least as their 4th or 5th guy. What do you like about that group of relievers in Detroit? Because I feel like that's actually a weakness.
Well, it's just a crop of stuff. And I'm going a lot off of like what I saw in the playoffs and getting into the playoffs last year, and they carried them.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And they were hanging right with the Cleveland bullpen, who had proven it for a longer period of time. But like every guy who came in was throwing 97, and I was like, I know everyone does that in the league, but they all had something unique, and and they seemed like they weren't. The stage wasn't too big for him either. It was impressive. I think Brisky's good. I think I thought Foley was going to make the team. He didn't because he was closing games a little bit too last year. He 20-ish saves. So I just think there's a lot of depth, but it's just not necessarily a lot of names. And they're just they're a year away from that. I think in a year we'll be like, I think they have there's a Cade Smith. Maybe not that type of pitcher, but like that kind of success in there somewhere where they're a fireman guy who they can go to all the time.
First year you didn't throw close to 97. You weren't popping 97s regularly. You retired.
Wait, yeah. As soon as I got rid of 97, I was like, nah, I'm average.
That's it.
Time
Time
to
to
go.
go. Time to move on to the next chapter of life. I'm going to sink Eno's Twins projection, though. That's my goal for the season. Trevor's on the Guardians, so Trevor's probably right.
Yeah.
Main thing for me with the Royals, everything went really well for them health-wise in the rotation last year. It's hard to bank on that twice, and you don't have another level for Bobby Witt Jr. He can't get better. He can't be more than a 10-WAR player for them.
If they lose him for any period of time, it is going to get rough quick. It's a patchy lineup. They need a little bit more. Hopefully Jonathan India can add some stability. He's going to get on base a lot for Bobby, and that's what they're hoping. I think their bullpen is another guys who doesn't have a ton of really good stuff. I think adding Carlos Estevez was some veteran presence, but a big, huge Lucas Erceg fan.
Yep.
And he is a buddy of mine, but he is electric, and he threw really good at the end of the year last year. I think Hunter Harvey's really good. I like the Zerpa guy thrown every day. They got workhorses. I think their bullpen's going to be one of their strengths. So, and they're going to need that because they're just outside of Bobby. They're just not going to be able to consistently score a lot of runs. But I think they're going to be around just because, Lugo's kind of made of rubber, frankly. I think he's going to stay out there. And Cole Reagans he's top 3 for me for the Cy Young. If not, it depends on. I think it's Skubal to lose, but Reagans is that good too.
Could win it, yeah.
And he ended very strong last year. And he's got that presence. I don't know. He just gives me he's just Cole Hamels across the board for me.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if they add more at the deadline if they are hanging around because they've been very aggressive. They've spent more money. I just wonder what their internal limit's going to be. I don't think they're going to come crashing back to earth. I think they're going to fall just a little short.
I got a dad joke. It's terrible.
Hit
it's
it.
It's one I told my kids when they were 4 and 5, and they never even laughed then. What do you get when you combine a kangaroo with an elephant? Big holes all over Australia. Anyway, I look at this Royals
Yeah, that was
lineup.
bad. You're right.
It was awful.
I look at this Royals lineup, and I see big holes all over Australia.
All right. Yeah. So we're down on the Royals as a group, even though they've been trying to push the chips in. Got another trivia question before we get to the AL East. Same prizes as before.
It wasn't even a lusty boo. It was just a
Boom. Just never
move
again. We do have Kayaker oranges we could add to the prizes if anybody would like an
Oh,
orange.
we got more trivia. Yes, move on.
Which pitcher led Major League Baseball in walks last year? Highest walk total.
That's a good one, but it's not him. I think Rodon was top 10 or
Yeah,
something.
Rodon. Well, it's not Rodon. It's not Snell. Luis Heel. Who had Luis Heel? Yeah, come on over.
Tough
Well
to do.
done.
Oh, we should
Pint
have
glass
brought
or
dog
subscription?
biscuits. I should have had dog
All right.
biscuits. Rates and Barrels dog
Yeah.
biscuits for next year. We got to remember that. Should put a note in here for that.
I just think that was a funny one because we think of things in rates all the time.
Yeah.
And it's in the name of the podcast. But we like bulk matters too, and it's just he had a great season. I'm not saying he didn't, but he walked almost. I would never have picked Luis Hill.
Yeah.
Do you think it's weird we don't think about hits per 9 or just hits allowed very often? It comes up on the extremes, like Blake Snell. Blake Snell comes up, hey, Blake Snell's great at hit suppression because he's great at hit suppression. He can get away with a high walk rate. But who was third in hits among starters, the high volume of innings, right? We don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Heel, I think, was good in hit suppression last year, but because he hasn't done it in the big leagues for several years, there are more questions about how sustainable it is if it's a skill that he actually has.
It also ties into just how pitchers are pitching less and less every year. Mm-hmm. And so, you can't really, if you want an extra category in your league, you wouldn't really do walks allowed. It'd be so weird because on some level, you'd get good pitchers.
Yeah.
Because they pitched a lot and gave up the walks and accrued walks. You wouldn't want that. So that's why we sort of settle on innings pitched as if you want to have an extra counting stat for your pitchers, innings pitched can be that counting stat where they are accruing value, their managers trusting them and putting them out there. Yeah.
So it seems like with the Garrett Cole injury, everybody's moving off the Yankees. The Red Sox have become a trendy pick to win the AL East. Who do you like to win the division this year?
Dude, we did ball predictions, and I had the Red Sox going to the World Series, and then SNY or somebody came out with their their predictions. They weren't even supposed to be bold predictions, they were predictions for the World Series, and I think 5 out of the 6 people had the Red Sox either losing or winning the World Series. And I was I deserve the one pepper, I think.
Yeah,
it was
not
completely
completely deserved. I I mean, I voted with my heart. Like, I knew.
I mean, they're a good team, and they're not projected to be a top 5 team. I don't know.
Why is everybody on them all of a sudden?
Because everyone loves Roman Anthony,
Campbell
Christian
making the
Campbell.
roster.
The 3
added
guys.
Bregman.
They did the last signing of Bregman. They got the last big guy,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what we
Crochet.
remember.
So like,
Crochet is
cool. You have a guy who
nasty.
can hit it over just pop it up over the monster all the time because he's got his Crawford boxes now. And then we added a bona fide ace, like a guy who can take over a game and no one can touch him, which they did not have.
How weak is this bullpen?
It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
But it's guys who, I mean, I know they're older, but they've been there and they've done it. And if they're healthy in a way, like, I don't know, Aroldis threw 102 again last year.
How does he keep throwing 100?
I don't know how many.
Old.
Have you
Extreme torque.
gotten up real close to him? It makes sense. That guy is a monster of a human
he's
being.
so
And I don't know what
when
Liam
we were
has left.
writing
But
about, could a guy throw 110 ever? One of the things that came up was, if we had a Giannis,
yeah,
pitching.
And you gave him Aroldis Chapman
he's about
mechanics.
the closest.
Yeah.
So you just need a bigger Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, he just needs to be a little bit bigger leverage.
Really big.
It'd be terrifying.
I mean, I wouldn't
6'4",
rule
240.
Joyce out from doing it yet, guys. He got a 106.
Yeah. You got it's one of
His
those
arm
things.
might fly off with the ball, but
But he would be happy.
yeah.
He would be.
The arm would fly off, he'd turn around and check it. I love that guy. He looks every time. Just
Turn
my
around
guy.
and look before, reaching the cross.
The gun.
Yes.
Justin Slayton got the save for the Red Sox today, right? So
Yeah.
that's the
Managers
little
are
twist.
liars.
Yeah, they really are. So average bullpen,
Hopefully.
Yeah.
above average rotation. I've made the Tanner Houck kind of a watered down Logan Webb.
And
comp.
on the subject of depth, I think okay depth. I would say above average depth.
Yeah.
Carter Crawford hasn't pitched yet, and he's going to be good. Richard Fitz was throwing 95s, 96s. Sean Newcomb, if he had a year where he put it in the right place, he could be good. Cooper Criswell, Stuff Plus likes it, even though the radar gun doesn't. And then Patrick Sandoval is going to maybe be around in the end. I mean, I would say that's above average depth.
Yeah, I think that they have great depth. Let's not forget the Red Sox were playing better than everyone thought they would for about 4 months last year. And then they kind of just came back down to earth. And they did that with just how Crawford and Bayo just being kind of 3-3s out there.
And the way that they did it was, I thought, so interesting. It said something about the organization, their values, and what they're willing to do. Like, they as an organization are willing to do stuff that'll make them look stupid.
Yeah.
They are willing to push the needle and try things in a way that cover your other teams won't do. Like, when they came out and threw fewer fastballs than any other team had ever thrown on a rate basis, and we're just like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you get fired for that if it doesn't work.
Yeah, they literally looked at it, they're like, this is what we have. These guys can only throw breaking balls, so we're going to just tell them to throw only breaking balls. And Andrew Bailey was like, okay. And that it was just that simple. Now, and I also love the Walker Buehler ad. I think he's got a little bit of a chip. I'm getting the vibe that he's like, guys, I'm still Walker Buehler. And I understand it took me a while to get there. If you see him just like 96, 97 and just dealing, don't be surprised. And having him and Crochet is that now it's completely different. Now the other 3 guys just behind those 2.
Yeah.
Like now you have a bunch of studs.
Yeah, having that happen with Buehler, or having a slightly better season from Houck, like somebody else emerging as a good number 2 would go a long way towards kind of propelling them to the top of this division and making that prediction feel really good. Is this who you're taking? Are you taking you obviously did on the bold predictions, but Trevor, are you taking the Red Sox to win this division?
I have the Red Sox, yes. Followed by Baltimore. Again, it's like the Mariners. Like, come on. I think you got Charlie Morton, cool. What else?
Yeah.
And
It's like the flip side of the Mariners. If you could squish, like we had the player squishing machine, if you had the team squishing machine and you squished the Mariners and Orioles together, you'd have a great team.
It's like yin and yang. They complement each other very, very well. But I have them taking set, and then the Yankees but again, those 3 teams are just going to be close. I'm not counting the Yankees out either. I think Bellinger and Goldie were good pickups. I think they're a little bit more complete. They have a good back end of the bullpen. It's just not having Garrett Cole is a huge hit. It's a huge, and Heel is that's one in arguably 1 and 2 or 1 and 3.
Yeah.
But at least you have Fried, who was an ace for pretty much his whole career, so he knows what it's like to take the reins for that. So at least you have that. Rodon doesn't have to do it. Right. So that's a positive. But again, they have no depth. So It's got to be.
I mean, they're
it's
walking
gotta,
a fine line. This is a huge
Cookie
collapse
Carrasco's in the
potential.
rotation
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah. It's
And Will
scary.
Warren, who's behind him, Carrasco only made it so that they could still have Will Warren as in case of glass, in case of emergency break glass. There's not. I mean, Cam Schlitter had some good spring stuff numbers, but there's not really anything. I mean, I would say bottom 5 depth on this rotation. They have one guy, and if more than one guy breaks, and that's usually what happens, they don't really have another plan.
I'm going to stick with the Orioles. I think they make good. I think they're kind of the AL version of the Phillies. They don't have quite the same success in October with this core yet, but they've at least been there. I think adding Zach Eflin at the deadline last year as someone they'd still have this year, that matters. Grayson Rodriguez's injury is not terrible. Looks like he's finally making some progress toward a return. I think he can be their ace. I don't love the back-end guys, but I think they feel pressure in that front office to deal from depth and actually get another pitcher again at this trade deadline. So I think they're going to stay active. We know Adley was banged up for the second half of last year. His splits from the late part of June on just was not the same guy. Right? I think it was a foul tip to the wrist or something that kind of set that off. Jordan Westburg, to me, is really solid. Jackson Holiday showed some interesting things in the second half last year. Talked to him on our episode on Wednesday, and it would be surprising if Jackson Holiday is at the top of the order by the end of the season, even though he started in the 9th spot. Like, that wouldn't be that surprising. Gunner's not that far away. Mullins popped 2 homers on opening day, which he's a good secondary piece. It's a good, deep lineup. And I think Colton Cowser's a little bit underrated. The shape of his season last year was uneven because he was so good early and then went to a pretty long slump afterwards. But I think he's going to make the adjustments back. So this is still a really good team that people have soured on because Tyler O'Neill was the splashy off-season acquisition, and it just didn't seem like the thing we all expected them to do.
See, I'm doing the team of the year of second chances, and that should have been the Orioles, not the Red Sox. I'm on the hype train with the Red Sox. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're on the hype train.
You got to get off the hype train.
Just, the last news I even saw from the Orioles was their new owner talking about how we need a salary cap, and I was just like, welcome to the league, man. I don't know if they gave you the pamphlet, explain how this works, but
how do you think you get chosen from a pool of prospective owners? You say things like that in the
like
meetings,
Mark
right?
Cuban isn't getting plucked out of this situation.
yeah,
right, exactly. We're going to get to our team-based predictions as far as the postseason. If you have questions for us, we have a microphone up here. You can just kind of make your way up towards this couch. We'll take a few questions at the end of the show here in just a couple of minutes. What happens in the postseason? Who do you have going into the ALCS this year,
I'm just going to stick on the hype train all the way, Boston all the way through.
Boston all the way through. Who are they going to play?
Padres.
All right. Wait. Oh, in the World Series. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was asking about the ALCS. Like who else is going to be there?
I don't know. Can it work that they play the Orioles?
I think anything's pretty much possible if you fudge the numbers the right way.
Yeah. All right. I'll take them against the Orioles.
Bold. Yeah. Okay, I was going to go Rays over Orioles to connect my bold prediction to the Rays actually winning the AL pennant. Trevor?
That is bold because we don't know how that stadium's going to go.
I have Boston. Boston over Texas.
All right, Boston over Texas.
NLCS?
Padres and Dodgers.
Padres and Dodgers.
I'm going to manifest that. I think it'd be fun. Yeah.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
they hate each other.
Yes, you're a Giants fan. It's not that fun. Trevor?
Phillies, Dodgers.
Phillies, Dodgers. Okay. Yeah, I kind of
Boo
like
that, man.
I like the Padres Dodgers call. I think Atlanta still gets in as a wild card, as I said before. I think they're still a very dangerous playoff team. I'm going to go a little chalky. I'll say Dodgers over Braves in the NL. I don't want it to play out that way, but I have my surprise on the AL side. Rays over Orioles in the ALCS is my call there. So I have a Dodgers-Rays World Series. A rematch, right? Had that a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I think if the Red Sox played the Padres, the Red Sox would win.
Nice.
I'll go with that.
I got the Dodgers beating the Rays, by the way. I'm all chalk right now.
That is a lot. Well, no, not the Rays.
Not the Rays part, but just
Where are you going in the World Series?
Phillies taking down the Sox.
nice.
All right. It's all different.
Just full disclosure, the year I was drafted, they won the World Series, so I'm going back to my roots.
Phillies?
Yeah, I was drafted by the Phillies, and they won the World Series that year.
You were drafted by the Phillies?
Yeah.
Who you traded for?
Ben Revere. Me and Vanimal. Vance Worley.
I shouldn't laugh when
Vance
that.
Worley.
No, you
rude.
should.
That was rude.
He should. He had 4 career home runs.
I love Ben Revere, though. He's like
Great guy.
Like Dairon Blanco, like Terrence Gore, like He was like the original speedster everybody wanted in September, but nobody wanted in April.
If it were today, he wouldn't be in a trade for pitchers.
That's true. Ben Revere, how many career stolen bases?
That's right. Nobody would have traded for that type.
No.
That's like a waiver acquisition.
Yeah, that's a player to be named later.
8 years in the big leagues. How many steals?
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not. To be clear, I'm not laughing at Ben Revere. It's 8 years in the big leagues. It's nothing.
211.
211. Not bad. How many home runs? 7?
7.
Yeah, 7.
It's exactly 7.
Yeah, less than years.
Does not say he's retired yet.
Come on.
Shut up.
Questions from anybody? Come on up to the
211
microphone.
stolen bases is good.
That is pretty
I
good.
promise you don't see this question coming.
All right.
I may be the only fan of this player, but why does Spencer Turnbull not have a job?
That is a little odd. Any particular reason Spencer Turnbull doesn't have a job? Is it anything to do with the assignment issue that happened in Detroit?
Maybe.
Bad reputation?
Yeah,
He's
I
also
don't know.
hurt, though, too.
He was hurt. He threw 50 innings last year, and even when he was successful, it wasn't.
It wasn't like easy on the team.
It was only his fastball was performing well, and it's not a great fastball.
Yeah.
So he was getting real lucky, and but I think that there's still at this point people who are left on the board who can get picked up by a team or sign with somebody minor league deal to get to big leagues. They want someone who would throw innings. That's why Kyle Gibson got picked up right at the end there. Like, at least he'll eat innings. We know what we're going to get, and Turnbull doesn't really fit. He's been hurt a lot in his career, so he's going to have to go show something probably for a AAA team somewhere for a while, get another opportunity, and make another run at it. But I think he can. He's not very old, so that's just the nature of bad time, wrong place, bad time.
And the model liked him not that long ago.
I mean, he had a 101 stuff plus last year. I do think there's probably some secondary concern from teams being like, if we sign him to a minor league deal, is he going to like talk to media about why is he not in the major leagues? Like, there's a little bit of like, this guy's going to be a headache. Like,
Yeah.
Kyle Gibson's not going to be a headache.
No, no, he's not. He might be in a different way though. Not
but he's not going to be like, I think there's some sense that he kind of sort of like advocates through the media for his position, which I think I would do if I was a player, because the media, I think the media should be more of an asset to players, and they should do this. But sometimes you can go too far.
You can only play a card once, too. You can only play a card once. If you try to do it all the time, you get a reputation. I think you're right, though. They'll go 15 in. It's really like that simple.
Yeah. Not enough bulk. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Love the show. I admire your optimism, but which team do you think is going to be the most overrated this year? Who's just going to crash and burn?
The Yankees don't qualify for this anymore, do they?
I don't know.
Is the Yankees missing the playoffs a bold prediction?
At this point, the vibes are like all in that direction.
Yeah, everybody's kind of expecting that.
I don't know who's. I mean, it's hard to make these predictions as big, but this team's actually going to. But I think that teams that could, the Mets could underperform. But I think it feels like things are a little more solid. The foundation is way more solid than it's been. But obviously, you sign a guy for $760 million. You need him to hit 70 homers. So there is no living up to that contract, really.
Could it be the Astros with
maybe.
everyone's in love with Cam Smith, but dude didn't play in the minor leagues and
Texas, maybe.
Oh,
I think
high expectations.
Texas could very, very just be just like they were last year too. Like they're right in the middle of the teeter-totter, and they could roll one way really hard.
Just too many injuries to key players, basically, and they fall short. I guess I could see that. I mean, we keep asking the how do they do it question about Cleveland and Milwaukee, so naturally they would come up. I mean, I don't like
we had a
what
bold
the Guardians
prediction
are
in the
doing.
Discord that
Chicago,
the Guardians end up 14th in the American League.
I don't hate that for a bold prediction, so I guess I'm quietly doubling down on sinking the Twins prediction that Eno put out there by saying the Guardians will underperform, and that's part of how the Twins get there. So I'm going to go Guardians.
I mean, if you look at the Royals lineup and you look at the Guardians lineup, the big holes thing kind of applies to both. I mean, the Guardians are going to run out Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, who might be there, but they're starting Gabriel Arias at second, and even Lane Thomas wasn't that great, and Daniel Schneemann is their fourth guy, and Nolan Jones, as much as we like him on this podcast, it could not work out. They could have 5 holes in that lineup.
Yeah, I'm not sure Nolan Jones is healthy yet. He wasn't healthy last year.
But the bat speed was good.
Yeah, the bat speed was good.
The Phillies have said that Andrew Painter isn't coming up till mid-June or something like that, but with Ranger Suarez already tweaked, are they one injury away from having him come up? Should they get those bullets at the major league level?
They should.
I don't get the sense that Suarez's injury is going to take that long.
Yeah.
So I think once Suarez is back, they're fine sort of bridging the gap with Taijuan Walker for now. I think if they were to lose a Wheeler or a Nola or a Luzardo or a Sanchez for a prolonged period of time in the first half, maybe then
But
they
they're
would
also
change that
just
plan.
not, they're not building up Painter. The newest note says he will begin pitching in extended spring training in a couple weeks on the 24th. So, like, building up, like, even if you wanted his innings in the major leagues, you would want him you want to call him up to pitch one inning?
Yeah, no. They
They
want
have to
him
get
to
him
be
to
cooking,
3 or 4 at least.
and they want there to be an extended period of time because they want him. They kind of just want to hand him off the keys a little bit. And they want him to be right in that group with Nola and Wheeler. And by all accounts,
he's gonna
be, and he's got the makeup of better than any pitcher right now. But I just think it's just bad timing. It's just the way where he's at and when the spot opened and what that spot means.
I think it's going to be important, though, fantasy league second half of the
big time.
season. It's going to be a difference maker.
Question?
We're in a brewery, so if you had to name a beer after a player, what player and what would the beer be called?
Oof. I thought you just wanted a beer name. I always thought Crooked Swaths would be a great name for a beer. It'd be a really hazy, like double IPA that would be crooked mowing the lawn. So it'd just be a great name. It could smell kind of grassy too.
Drunk.
Yeah, just basically drunk lawn. I mean, I'm from the Midwest. But this is a regular occurrence for people.
It's a Midwest answer. I love it.
It's not a baseball answer. Well, I guess the groundskeeper. Could be,
yeah.
That could happen. You never see Crooked Swaths in the big leagues. Though.
We had Brett Pills was a major league player. So you could easily have a Brett Pills, he's kind of a Giants legend a little bit. He had some legendary moments. So you got a Brett Pills.
Yeah.
If you wanted to double up on that.
To piggyback your idea of what alcohol does to people, Rowdy T.
Yeah. So some kind of
that sounds like a hard
tea.
tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a hard tea. Rowdy tea.
Maybe it's a hard tea.
Rowdy tea. I like that. Another question?
For those of us who don't have a horse in the race in the American League, is it worth rooting for an ALCS between the A's and the Rays so the entire series has to be played in a minor league ballpark to punish Major League Baseball?
100%.
I'm here for that. Yeah, I love it. That's a great thing to root for.
This is like the cousin of rooting for the asteroid, I think.
It'll just look like a spring training game.
Yeah, and oh my God, Manfred would be so angry, and they'd have to they would do pregame stuff about it, and then A-Rod and A-Rod would have to talk about it.
A-Rod's like, that's where I used to hit BP.
I'm on Team Asteroid, by the way.
It would be so awkward, and they have those guys on the field because there's no other place to put them.
There's nowhere to put them.
Another question?
First and foremost, great new beer. Give it up,
Thank
everybody.
you. Yeah, Kayaker's Cove.
Eno paid me for that. You have mentioned a couple times last couple weeks, Wilmer Flores, one of the best guys in baseball. Nice guy, but just don't think he's going to cut it. Multi-part question. Number one.
I paid him to ask
Do you
this
think he
question.
listens to the podcast? Number two, was he thinking about you when he went up to bat in the ninth inning? And number three, have you changed your opinion since he hit that home run today?
Actually, he has 2 home
Pulling
runs
up the
this
numbers
spring.
again. Just
He
to
hit
try
it
to-
off of Ian Jabot, dude.
He did. Ian Jabot,
The closer.
Team Canada closer. Okay, yeah, I did have a moment when he hit that homer where I said I might be wrong. And the guy that I thought would take his place on the roster, Gerard Encarnacion, broke his hand and is not going to be available. So Wilmer Flores is going to get a month at least of run time to prove that he can keep the job. And there's something it's going to sound again like damning with faint praise or even making fun of him, but he's a guess hitter and he's actually pretty good at it. So he's a guy that he has 2 swings. He has a flat swing at the top of the zone and he's a very scoopy swing at the bottom. And he's just thinking, He's just like fastball or breaking ball, fastball or breaking ball. And he puts the fastball swing on or he puts the breaking ball swing on. And today he put the breaking ball swing on the breaking ball. And there's something to that. Like, he's smart. He's affable. That's why people love him. Multilingual and I mean, you saw it when he cried as a Met. Like, he is present in his emotions and says real things. Like, when I asked him about that moment, he said, that was the first time I learned that baseball was a business, but that was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because I grew up and I learned to treat baseball as a business after that. But the good thing about that is I've treated it like a business and I still get to play. You know, and by treating it like a business and taking these small deals and these short deals and going places, I've been able to play and I've carved out. So he's carved out this like right-handed DH spot that's very tenuous. And so maybe next year he won't have a job. But this year looks like maybe he can keep it going.
You've softened.
I've softened.
One swing.
Like I said, though, I like him so much personally that I'm still rooting for him.
I think you did sound like you felt bad burying him in the first place.
Yeah, I did.
Any other questions from anybody? Yeah, there's a few people want questions. Cool. All right.
Again, this is for Eno.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do appreciate about you is how honest you are about your evaluations of players. And I know that you are in a lot of locker rooms or you have a lot of access to players. Do you have any anecdotes that we may want to hear that stick out to you in terms of things that you've said that you've had to, I guess, deal with later on or anything along those lines? Thank you.
Well, a couple are funny. Like one, I was trying to convince Darwin Barney that he had a trade value, and I quoted his defensive stats, and he was arguing he didn't have trade value.
He was arguing against having trade value.
And I was like, no, somebody wants a middle infielder. He was right in the end. He did not get traded for, but he did. He walked off, and from from 30 yards away, he yelled "nerd." But it was, I think it was in love. Another one was I asked Dexter Fowler why he didn't steal more bases for my fantasy team. That was a dud.
Bad idea.
Total dud. Was the end of our conversation. But when it comes to like providing, evaluations, I always feel super bad about it because I have to talk to the player afterwards. And the big one was I wrote a big story with Sonny Gray about what went wrong in New York. And he was like laying out what New York told him to do. And he was like, New York just wanted me to throw sliders in the zone. And he's like, I don't really throw a slider. I just throw a harder curveball. And if you want me to throw it in the zone, it just spins. And he had this quote that it got aggregated, especially because it's New York. It got aggregated, and it was like, Sonny Gray quotes, they just wanted me to throw a SHI, slider, end of quote.
Slider.
A shippy slider. And you're like, I'm still going to bleep that. So I realized, like, after it got aggregated, I realized I have to go in the next day. And so it was spring, and I don't normally go to the same camp twice, but I went back into Cardinals camp. Was it Cardinals camp? No, we did go after.
That might have been Yankees camp.
No, after Yankees. He went.
Twins.
He went after Yankees? No.
Cincy?
Cincy.
There was Cincy in there,
yeah.
too, yeah, 'cause
Went
you're in
back to
Arizona.
Cincy camp, and the PR guy was like, oh, good you're coming back to wear this. He's like, Sonny Gray is mad. And I was like, oh, this is great. Sonny Gray's mad. And so I walk up, and I'm like, oh, man, I didn't write those headlines. Like, you got aggregated. I didn't put that in my headline. It was just in my piece. I didn't mean for all that to get out there. And he goes, man, it's all cool, dude, but did you have to leave the curse words in? I was like, well, that's like that was an editorial choice for The Athletic at the time. We've actually gone away from that a little bit. We take the curse words out more now, but
That's why we say shippy sliders.
yeah, or something.
That could be a beer name, Shippy Sliders.
I mean, he's like a good
No.
Southern boy. Like he didn't want me. But it is that also opens the door a little bit. I have 2 kids at home, young kids that I should not be cursing around a lot, and I go into the clubhouse and they curse like sailors in the clubhouse.
Yes.
I mean, it is just And I've even found that I
40%
can.
of the words.
Yeah, I've even found that I can kind of ingratiate myself with players a little bit by just swearing just as much as them. You know, they're like, "Oh, this guy gets it," and it's come full circle. I used to have a pretty good barrier up, and it's come full circle to where that barrier is totally softened. And I expect both my kids to grow up with just total potty mouths. I mean, they're one step away.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
This is also for but is open to everyone. I've been told, and it seems like the trend in pitching is towards wider arsenals, flatter mixes, more intelligent usage, better tunneling. How does, in the previous live podcast we did for Pitcher List previously, they were ranking different attributes like velocity, feel for spin, different things you could build a pitcher. What would you do? And there's a draft. Have you changed your mind on what's important? Because I'm thinking especially of Sasaki versus a Job, one who can absolutely spin the hell out of the baseball. His curve and his cutter are his two best pitches, versus a Sasaki who has an alien,
One
good
pitch or
velocity,
two,
an
yeah.
alien splitter, but then can't seem to spin the baseball. What's his other
I
pitch
want
going
to throw
to be?
this to you, dude. Like, if you were building yourself as a starting pitcher, and you had the choice between what was it? It was feel for spin, wide arsenal, command, and like one amazing pitch, like stuff, like a stuff pitch, like just in a like Kyle Bradish's, slider, and you build around it, or like a more even mix. Who's an even mix guy? Like
Zach Eflin.
Yeah, Zach Eflin.
Yeah, like an even mix guy, or
For starting pitchers, maybe more of the mix and the command. It's just because stuff is just so closely correlated with swing and miss, and starters just don't hunt that as much as relievers do because they can't. We saw, like Skeens, for example. Skeens has one, his blinker is a very good pitch and a good slider. He's trying to flatten his arsenal out a little bit.
He's trying not to throw that pitch.
Yeah, he's trying to get guys to hit the ball softly earlier in games. He still wants strikeouts, but he wants them earlier because he wants to throw more innings. So he's consciously doing that on purpose. It's the multiple fastball thing. So it's not necessarily like giving up contact is what they're saying. Pitch contact thing was the phrase that I hated more than every time I heard anyone saying it. I'm like, stop. The goal is to give up no contact ever if you can afford it, or soft. We're not trying to throw a hard ground ball somewhere. So, yeah, I would say those things. And then it would probably flip for relievers. You build around one really good pitch and go from there.
I just wonder if it should be flipped. It's like, what if you start with the one really good pitch and you know that in today's environment that the pitching coach can help you put the stuff around it, that's Eflin's curse too, is that Eflin, like if Eflin had Bradish's curveball and then got taught the whole thing around it, then he might be better even than Bradish. You know what I mean?
Maybe so Morton's a better version of that.
Morton has the one pitch.
He is the one pitch, but he's added, and what was it last year? He was throwing cutters like crazy.
One thing I have noticed though is that the aging curve is that you have one great pitch and then you add pitches around it, and those pitches are good enough that you're really good. And as you get older, the pitches around it start sucking more and are not as effective. But your good pitch is still there. Your good pitch is still there.
Yeah,
it's like the Adam Wainwright. Adam Wainwright came up with the curveball. He tried out all these pitches. The cutter was a huge addition.
And he ended with the curveball.
And he ended with the curveball.
Eventually,
Sales got the slider.
So I guess my answer is still one great pitch, because I think I would add around it, and I could always end as a reliever maybe at the end.
Yeah, but you have a floor of being in the big leagues as a reliever if you have one elite pitch.
So, but it is tough because, maybe on some level maybe feel for spin is the answer, because how do you add pitches if you don't have good feel?
Yeah.
It's really hard. Some guys are always trying to add pitches. Like Taj Bradley's trying to add a pitch every year, and it doesn't work a lot. Yeah. So sometimes, what is it makes some guys add pitches? I don't know. I think that's like makeup or feel for spin, something that's really hard to define. But I will go with one pitch, I think. Who's that? Yeah. I think that's an Edgertronic. He said supinators are throwing good changeups now. I think that's an Edgertronic seam shifted wake, part of
and then the kick change too. So they found two pitch designs now where
the splitter and the kick change.
That's the problem. Forever, there's so many supinators that could not throw it and have no changeup. They just have no changeup forever and ever and ever and ever, and they didn't know why. And then now suddenly we can pitch design and we can show you in one pitch if you're doing it right or not. and that is unlocking. I think that's why relievers are going back and becoming starters more effectively now. Is because they're able to do stuff like that. They can design and expand your
Those
your
are some
arsenal
like
faster.
one pitch guys that they're just being like Clay Holmes was like, I have 3 new pitches.
Yeah, more paths to
Screw
add
one
pitches
new
now
pitch.
in pitch design than
Yeah.
we had 10 years ago.
And that Seth Lugo, they're like, hey, instead of throwing your slider and your curveball, you're going to throw your slider, sweeper, curveball, slurve. We're just going to turn your 2 breaking balls into 5 because we can, because you're a starter now.
That's
He's
a
like,
Sonny
great.
Gray thing too.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do the whole time. So they get the opportunity to do it. It's almost like one good pitch gets you the opportunity long enough to learn the other stuff.
Yeah, got to hang around long enough to get the chances to make the adjustments.
You got to have something that's good to hang around.
And we've talked about it on the position player side. If you're a phenomenal defender, that carries your playing time long enough for you to learn how to make adjustments as a hitter, and you get that prolonged window to get better in that.
And it doesn't
facet.
necessarily work the other way as well.
Right. Any more questions?
We're heading towards 2 hours.
Yeah, I think
All
this will be the last question, I think.
Thank you.
So one of my favorite things to do early in the season is look at the X stats to try to identify like guys who are either underperforming or overperforming by a little bit. Is that a reasonable thing to do? I feel like you guys have never fully loved xwOBA over the years. Do you have a favorite way to quickly identify somebody who's like a good buy low, sell high guy?
So I'll use that leaderboard to dig into players. I won't just look at the X stats, see a gap, and say, okay, I'm in. XBA is high, X slug's high, actual results are low. I'm just in. I look at the process stats after that and say, is the hitter chasing more? Is he swinging more overall? Like what else is going on? Because sometimes there's a wholesale change happening that helps to explain part of that gap, and it makes you less optimistic that you're going to get the player that the X stats say you're going to get, right? So it's always a jumping off point for me. I don't know if you use it the same way.
I mean, yeah, I do actually, but I will sort by that, but I don't usually build my argument on it. One of the reasons is they haven't actually been shown, like it hasn't been shown to be predictive. Those gaps or XBA, xwOBA has not been shown to be predictive, and I will use it to sort of sort plays and be like, who might be unlucky? But the things that you hear us talk about on the show are more predictive. Yeah. So you're talking about barrels or hard hit rate. Those do go into xwOBA, but the problem, I don't know why xwOBA is not super predictive. I think it has to do with spray angles or like it's not always like contact rate. Is that part of it? I don't know why. It just hasn't been shown to be predictive. So I'd rather sort of make the underlying argument. I'd rather break beyond that into the sort of components underneath that and look at bat speed, look at barrel rates, look at things like that. So I know, for example, like xERA for pitching is not very useful, and xwOBA for pitching is maybe the least valuable xwOBA, and xwOBA for hitting is a little bit better, and because of the stuff underneath, like barrel and hard hit. So I don't know. I think I'd just rather go a little bit more closer to the source than the sort of thing that sums it up. But if I were you, I think that like sorting by the difference is a good way to start looking. Yeah. And then you can gather 5 guys and look at the 5 guys and be like, what do you like about these 5 guys?
It's funny you brought up actually xwOBA because that is the stat that with Jeremy Hefner we would use to prepare to face teams. So I had a heat map where I would find out where they did the most damage.
It'd be their xwOBAs.
And it would be we go by xwOBA. So we used to think about it instead of predictive, it's what's possible. So these are like things that have happened and they were hit hard enough to be something, but they weren't or they were. Like that's less. It's almost like a result and a predictive stat. And so the bigger red blobs mean that guy hits the ball hardest. So that therefore it's more likely to be.
I'm surprised you didn't look at like sort of exit velocity, but then
again it points you
exit
towards
velocity
that.
because some of them could be grounders that are
so you
hit
take
hard.
them all together and see if there's anything that doesn't match up with everything else. Was what you were saying. So it would be I call them like compass stats. It points you in a direction. That's where the path is. Let's follow this path. And that was the first thing we would look at is where is the xwOBA. And one thing that was like interesting, here's a prime example, like Shohei Ohtani, right? His whole, and Bryce Harper, the whole thing is red because when they hit the ball, it's hard. But like Joey Votto was a lot of yellow, and there was like a lot of blue. But the whole thing, there was no blue. It was just all kind of like yellow and a little orange because you just hit the ball everywhere, but not necessarily hard.
Hard, yeah.
So like the two, they're both really good hitters. But the way you approach them, you're more willing to live in the zone or give up a hard hit thing to Votto than you are to Ohtani. So that that's kind of how he would. You could tell that Ohtani had the talent that could be the higher ceiling based on that stat, which then is generally predictive that he might be better than another guy. So I think X stats can show you baseline, and then you follow it and see if there's like little nuggets that you can get off of them. That's how we do it. We did it when we were preparing for hitters.
Yeah, and xWOBA for hitters too led me to realize that teams play different defensively against guys that don't run well. So you'd see Giancarlo Stanton, you'd see Rowdy Tellez, like the beefy boys, Albert Pujols late in his career. They'd have great X stats, but bad results. And it wasn't that they were unlucky. It was that you could play them differently defensively, and fielders could just take hits away that would be hits for other guys that were better runners. So
before they made it illegal, they would play Albert Pujols like on the grass. You know, all the infielders would be on the grass because they had all the time in the world to throw it over to first. So there are things like that come into play. We haven't been able to prove that like a directional xWOBA is better, but I think there might be another. Teams might have better xWOBAs than are available to us.
Right.
Because it is a potentially good thing that sums up a lot of different things: contact, launch angle, exit velocities.
Well, I think we have to go. This is our longest episode of Rates and Barrels ever.
2 episodes.
Flew right by. Crammed 2 episodes in one. Thank you to all of you for joining us live today. We're going to do this again tomorrow, Friday, 4:30, right back here at Barebottle. We're in the Bernal Heights location.
We'll have merch tomorrow, hopefully.
We will hopefully have merch tomorrow, so maybe that's a carrot to get you to come back for a second show and a completely different rundown. I made a rundown that I guess would have taken 4 hours to get through because we like to talk so much. Not even close to finishing it. But thanks to Lester Koga for hosting us here at Barebottle.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Barebottle.
Thanks to our producer, Brian Smith, for putting this episode together, making us sound good. You can find Eno on Bluesky, Sarris.bsky.social. I am Trevor May.bsky.social. I am DVR.bsky.social. For those of you who were not here for our show, we're Rates and Barrels. We're a baseball podcast. Tell your friends. But thank you again to all of you for being here. We're back with you on Friday.
Thanks for listening. Almost forgot because we're live. Thanks for attending.
Yeah, baby.